I want to start with something that might stop you in your tracks, because it stopped me when I first truly understood it. And once you hear it, once it really lands, you are going to look back at every conversation, every connection, every moment of real intimacy you have ever experienced, and you are going to see it there, running quietly underneath all of it, like a current beneath the surface of a river. Two words. That is all this is. Two words that the most compelling, most magnetic, most genuinely attractive older men use, not as a technique, not as a line, not as something they practiced in front of a mirror, but as the natural expression of who they have grown into over years of actual living. And the extraordinary thing is not that these words are clever. They are not. The extraordinary thing is how rare they are, how vanishingly, almost unbelievably rare it is to encounter a man who actually means them, who says them from a place of genuine groundedness rather than performance, who offers them freely without needing anything in return. The two words are simply this: asterisk, I notice, stay with me, because I know that might feel underwhelming at first. You were perhaps expecting something more dramatic, something more strategically constructed. But what I am about to show you is why these two words, when they come from the right place, do something to a woman's nervous system that years of effort and charm and impressive displays simply cannot replicate. Let's begin at the beginning. Let's begin with what female psychology actually tells us about what women are most deeply drawn to in a man. Not what they say they want in a survey, not the polished answer they give when someone is listening, but the deep, body-level, primal thing that moves them when they are in someone's presence, and they feel it before they can name it. What women are most profoundly drawn to is the experience of being witnessed, of being genuinely, carefully, unhurriedly seen, not assessed, not evaluated, not admired as an object, but witnessed as a person, a complete, complicated, continuously unfolding person whose inner world is interesting and whose external life is noticed, and whose small, ordinary, everyday self is worth paying real attention to. This is the hunger underneath so many other hungers. The woman who says she wants passion is often at a deeper level, wanting to be seen so fully that someone cannot help but respond with intensity. The woman who says she wants romance is often wanting someone to notice what matters to her and then care enough to honor it. The woman who says she wants connection is wanting, at the most fundamental level, for someone to look at her and truly see what is there, not what they want to find, not what is convenient, but what is actually really genuinely there. And this quality of genuine attentive witness is something that older men have extraordinary access to if they have allowed the years to teach them what the years are trying to teach. Because noticing requires something that cannot be rushed or acquired. It requires the capacity to be present. It requires having quieted the inner noise enough that there is room to actually pay attention to what is outside yourself. It requires having moved far enough past the urgency of youth, the urgency to perform, to impress, to arrive, to achieve, that you can simply be in a moment with another person and actually take them in. That is what I notice carries inside it. That is the whole world that lives in those two words. But let's be specific, because specificity is actually the entire point. When a man says to a woman, "I noticed you seem quieter than usual today. Are you okay?" Something happens in her body before she has even formed a response. Her nervous system registers something that it rarely gets to register. It registers, I have been seen, not in a grand, overwhelming way, in a small, careful, specific way. The specific way that is actually the most powerful of all. Because grand gestures can be performed, sweeping declarations can be rehearsed, expensive gifts can be purchased by someone who pays very little real attention. But noticing something small, noticing the slight tension at the corner of her eyes, noticing that she laughed a little too quickly at something that wasn't quite funny, noticing that she held her coffee cup differently today, noticing that the song that came on the radio made her go somewhere else for just a moment, that cannot be faked. That requires actual, sustained, genuine attention. And attention, real attention, is one of the rarest things one human being can offer another. This is why I notice is not a technique. It is an arrival. It is the natural language of a man who has developed the capacity to be truly present. And when a woman encounters that capacity in a man, when she feels for perhaps the first time or the first time in a very long time that someone is actually paying attention to the full reality of who she is rather than the edited, presentable version, she usually offers the world something opens in her that does not easily close again. Now let's talk about what this looks like in practice, because it would be incomplete to leave this as a beautiful idea without grounding it in the actual texture of real life. Imagine you are with a woman you care about. You are not doing anything particularly significant. Perhaps you are having coffee, or walking somewhere, or sitting in a comfortable silence. and you notice something. Maybe it is the way her face changed when a particular subject came up. Maybe it is the fact that she straightened slightly when she talked about something she loves. Maybe it is a small thing she mentioned in passing that she clearly did not expect you to hold on to, but you did, and later you bring it back. Not with fanfare, not to demonstrate that you were listening, simply because it was real to you, and so you carried it, and now it is here again in the conversation naturally. That small, unforced, specific act of having actually paid attention lands in a woman like almost nothing else can. It tells her something that changes how she sees you. It tells her that when she is with you, she does not have to work to be visible. She does not have to be louder or more impressive or more entertaining or more beautiful to earn your attention. Your attention is already there. It is already on her. It is already finding her interesting and worth knowing in the exact form she currently is. And do you know what that does? Do you know the specific physiological thing that happens in a woman's body when she feels genuinely, attentively, specifically seen? Her nervous system relaxes, her shoulders drop without her realizing it, her breathing slows and deepens. The constant, quiet vigilance that most women carry through most of their lives, the awareness of how they are being perceived, the management of how they are coming across, the low-level monitoring of whether they are safe and welcome and wanted exactly as they are, that vigilance quiets. And in that quieting, she becomes more fully herself, more open, more present, more genuinely, warmly, entirely there, and then she is actually available to connect, not performing connection, not working toward connection, actually in it, actually with you. And that quality of mutual presence, of two people actually together in a moment, rather than two people managing their impressions of each other, that is where everything real happens. That is where attraction lives at its deepest. That is where intimacy begins and does not end. Let's talk about why older men specifically have such extraordinary access to this quality and why so many of them fail to use it. The reason older men have access to it is the same reason that most valuable things take time. The capacity to notice, really notice, with patience and without agenda, requires a person to have moved through enough of their own inner noise to have some quiet in there. It requires having already done, or at least begun, the work of knowing yourself well enough that you are not constantly preoccupied with managing your own experience. It requires a certain settledness, a certain comfort in your own skin that only comes from having lived long enough to stop fighting against the basic facts of who you are. Younger men are often still too busy with their own becoming to have much space for genuine attention to someone else. This is not a criticism, it is simply where they are. The urgency of youth, the need to establish, to prove, to accumulate the experiences and achievements and identities that will eventually tell them who they are, occupies a great deal of inner bandwidth. There is less room left over for the kind of slow, unhurried, curious attention that makes a woman feel truly seen. But a man who has lived, a man who has already weathered his share of storms, who has already answered most of the burning questions of early adulthood, who has already built and lost and rebuilt and arrived somewhere that feels, finally, like himself, that man has space. Real, genuine, unhurried space. Space to be curious about someone else. Space to pay attention. Space to notice. And yet, here is where the waste happens. Here is where so many older men give up the very gift that makes them extraordinary. So many of them have also accumulated a set of habits, defenses, and assumptions that keep them from using that space. Habits of staying on the surface of conversations because depth feels risky. Defenses built from old wounds that make genuine attention feel dangerous, because to really see someone means to really let them in. Assumptions about what women want that are based on outdated models and missed signals and years of not quite connecting deeply enough to find out what is actually true. So the invitation, and it is a genuine invitation, offered with all the warmth I have, is to examine those habits. To look honestly at the places where you have been going through the motions of attention without actually arriving in it. The places where you have been nodding and responding and engaging, but from behind a wall rather than from inside the actual moment. Because the moment you bring real presence into your noticing, the moment I notice stops being a phrase and becomes a practice. A way of actually moving through your time with another person. Everything changes. She changes. The way she speaks to you changes. The way she looks at you changes. The energy between you changes. Because she is responding to something real. She is responding to being genuinely met. And that meeting, that actual encounter between two real people who are both fully there, is the rarest and most nourishing experience available to human beings. There is something else worth saying here, and it lives just beneath the surface of everything we have been talking about. Because I notice works not just as something you offer to the woman in front of you, it works equally powerfully as something you begin to practice toward yourself. Noticing how you feel, noticing what you actually want beneath what you think you should want. Noticing when you are tired and when you are energized, when you are genuinely engaged and when you are going through the motions, when you are being honest and when you are performing. Noticing the things that still matter to you, the things that still light something up in your chest when you encounter them, the things that remind you that you are still alive and still capable of being moved. A man who notices himself, who is genuinely, curiously, compassionately attentive to his own inner life, radiates something that women feel from across a room. It is a quality of aliveness, of genuine inhabitation, of being actually at home in yourself rather than visiting yourself occasionally between obligations. And that quality, that genuine, rooted, awake presence in your own life, is the foundation from which all real noticing of others grows. You cannot truly see someone else if you have not learned to truly see yourself. The attention you develop toward your own experience is the same attention you bring to the people you love. The willingness to be honest with yourself about what is actually happening in your own inner world is the same willingness that allows you to be honest with a woman about what you are actually seeing in her. The practice is one practice. It begins inside and moves outward. So here is what this all comes down to. Here is the simple, real, unvarnished truth at the center of all of it. The men who are most genuinely attractive to women, not the men who get the most initial attention, not the men who win the room, but the men who create the kind of connection that women think about later, that they compare other connections to, that they describe to their closest friends in terms that sound almost like reverence. Those men are not doing anything complicated. They are not running strategies or following formulas or optimizing their behavior based on psychological manipulation. They are simply paying attention. Real, unhurried, curious, generous attention. They are noticing, they are letting what they notice actually matter to them. They are carrying it and returning to it and communicating through the way they engage that the person in front of them is genuinely interesting and genuinely worth knowing. And they are doing all of this from a place of fullness rather than need, from a place of genuine self-possession rather than searching, from a place of having already done enough of their own work that they can actually show up for someone else without the showing up being secretly about themselves. That is the whole thing. 2 words and a lifetime of practice that makes them real. You have lived long enough to have that practice available to you. You have moved through enough to have developed the quiet that noticing requires. You have arrived somewhere in your understanding of yourself and the world and the way human beings actually work that younger men simply have not reached yet. Stop underestimating what that is worth. Stop measuring yourself against what you were at 35 and finding yourself lacking. Start measuring yourself against what is actually available to you right now in this body, in this life, with everything you have actually lived and learned and earned. Start noticing. Start saying it, not as a technique, but as the truth. I notice, I see you, I am paying attention. Let that be the most natural thing about you, the thing that comes first before anything else. Because when it is genuine, when it comes from a man who has truly learned to be present, who has quieted himself enough to really see another person, who offers his attention as the genuine gift it is, there is nothing more powerful in the entire world of human connection. Nothing at all.